Welcome to the NNA podcast. So we watched the film Blackkklansman, which came out a few months ago. It just came out on DVD fairly recently. It's a film by Spike Lee based on true events. It's about a black cop who goes undercover as a member of the KKK. It's pretty entertaining.
Basically, we're going to learn about Ayrton's buddies in the USA.
Indeed, my old mate David Duke. Probably a distant relation, I'm sure. Yeah, it's a pretty fascinating film. So me and Nicole watched it. In case you didn't know, I'm white and Nicole's black, but we're both in London. So we're a little bit more detached from the issues of the film than most would be. So, Nicole, did you enjoy the film?
I have very much mixed emotions about it. It's a good film, but sometimes it was too real for me. I watch films or play games or read comics to try to escape from reality. And you're not doing that with this film, to be honest. It's kind of bringing an alternate reality, which isn't really mine, and bringing it to my attention, which I didn't really like, to be honest. But it's not a bad film, so it's really hard for me to judge this film. I can't even... For me to recommend this film, it depends on who you are, to be honest. Ayrton may have a completely different opinion on that, but I'm pretty sure he won't feel what I feel.
Just building on what you're saying, it was really interesting. I went on Reddit afterwards and read some of the comments of people who went to see the film in the cinema. So there's some people who are in like Louisiana and shit, and like there are people who there's a moment where David Duke says to the black cop, like, you should come down to Louisiana, I'll teach you how we do things down there, in a threatening way.
Yep.
And apparently people in the cinema were like cheering that on. If you don't know, David Duke is the old head of the KKK. So it was a bit disconcertingly real when reading that stuff. I enjoyed the film. Obviously, I'm quite in touch with news and politics and such, for better or for worse. So I was coming at it from a bit of a different perspective than Nicole. But yeah, I liked the film. I thought it was kind of poignant in some of the things that it said. I liked how it didn't just portray the KKK as bad people as well. It was a much more realised version of racism. Like, David Duke isn't this sort of Darth Vader, evil emperor style person. He's just a kind of nice enough seeming dude. And there's even a moment where one of the characters is in bed with his wife, and they're mixing up the normal like lovey-dovey conversation with talking about killing black people. And he sort of gives you that insight into just how integrated that mindset is, and how unaware of like how disgusting from a perspective what they're saying is to them.
You say that, but I didn't necessarily feel like this, but what I read on Reddit was a lot of people thought that all the racist white guys were just portrayed as just bad, and Ron and his fellow members were portrayed as good, like it was just black and white, no pun intended. But you know, if you were white, you were just evil, and the black guy is just good. How it was just so simple. A lot of people complained about that. I didn't necessarily feel that way. I kind of see what you're saying. I kind of agree more with what you're saying, but a lot of people complain about that. I don't know.
Because, I mean, there was also showing the sort of negative sides of the Black Power movement as well. Like, even when he was like, yo, I'm doing all this stuff to protect you, she's like, yeah, you're a pig, I don't give a fuck. So it wasn't like they were portrayed entirely in a positive light. Especially when they were contrasting the KKK watching Birth of a Nation late on in the film, alongside the black people talking about this guy getting lynched. And in case you didn't know, Birth of a Nation was a film that came out in 1915. It's actually a film that Spike Lee watched in film school, who's the director of the film. And he almost got kicked out of school because he complained about it quite a lot. Because it led to the revival of the KKK. KKK was around earlier, it died off. And this film basically, which is shown in Blackkklansman, called Birth of a Nation, it basically said, you know, black people came in, things were going really downhill, and the KKK came in and helped the world be a better place. And it really helped revive that at the time, and thus indirectly led to a lot of lynching and such awful things.
A lot of these characters felt very real to me. As in, even people who had the same goal but had different methods of going about it. Like you spoke about Ron and I forget the girl's name. Ultimately, they have the same goal, but they have very different ways of achieving this goal. And even the members of the KKK, you have Felix and David Duke. They have the same goals, but they have very different methods of achieving said goal. I think it's not black and white kind of thing. And even Felix's wife, she's a funny one actually, because she was going to do whatever he said. She loved him, and she just wanted to feel loved and valued by him. So even though she was like agreeing with everything what he said, if he just said like one day, you know what, actually maybe these black guys aren't so bad, maybe I just forget about this whole thing, she would have just gone along with it. And I do believe a lot of people just kind of follow the trend, because if this what these people are doing, it doesn't really affect me, I'll just go along with it, because I do think a lot of people are like that then and now.
So you don't think people get like rooted in ideologies and there's a lot of themselves invested in it? It's like, you hate Mortal Kombat, right?
Yeah.
So for you to admit that Mortal Kombat is the best fighting game would be painful.
But no, it's just not true.
But like, hypothetically speaking, imagine if it were true and you had come to realise this. There's some future Mortal Kombat that comes out that's amazing and it's just better than Tekken. It'd be painful for you to admit that, right?
I guess, but if it's true, then I would have no problem. I'll say yeah.
But if it wasn't clear, but you could see it slowly becoming like true, it'd be pain. There'd be a pain to that, no?
Maybe.
Because I think like, once you're so invested in something, it's like you talk to some people sometimes and they believe something so strongly, even if the evidence is very clear, to an objective person, to them in an objective state, they'd be like, yeah, this is bullshit, I don't know why I believe the earth is flat, it doesn't make any sense. They've invested so much in it and into arguing it with you and into like digging down in that position that they just have to reject all evidence otherwise.
I hear you, but going back to the original point, with her, I would say her main goal wasn't all that racist shit. Her main goal was just getting her man to love and appreciate her. That was her main goal. So that wouldn't change. If he suddenly changed his view, her main aim doesn't change. Her main aim was getting him to appreciate her. So that's what I'll say to that.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, actually. Do you think things have changed substantially since the film was...
Well, it's funny because you kind of think that, but then what they show right at the end, they show the Charlottesville Riots, which was last year, I believe. Mm-hmm. That kind of almost defeats that argument that this is shit really it still goes on. Not necessarily in the same way, but the roots of people still have these same opinions. Basically, it's probably just a lot less blatant, but it's still there. I mean, ultimately, it's hard for me and you to say because we don't live in Colorado in America. London's very different. Yeah, I could be wrong, but I don't think it was ever that bad, even for my well, actually, I guess that's not true.
No blacks, no Irish.
Yeah, I was gonna say, but in our lifetimes, it's never been like that, so we don't really get that, if that makes any sense.
Certainly not in London. I think the experience would be quite different if you were in like a much more white area. But I think
even still.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Not even at the same level as America.
It's another interesting perspective because I was watching this with my Chinese friend. And he's born and raised in China. He came to Europe during his late 20s. So a lot of this stuff was quite new to him. He didn't really understand. He kind of heard of the KKK, but he didn't really understand all of the like religious aspects to it and whatever. I had to explain a lot of shit to him. He thought, and I somewhat agree with him, that some of the members felt a bit over the top. Slightly, probably like Felix. And then it's funny when he asked me, these guys are just so stupid. How can they all be so stupid? Like, and they, apart from David Duke, the rest of them guys, they're fucking dumb. And I think even one of them does have some sort of mental disability because he's not all there. And he was just asking me, how come they're just dumb? This must be, just for, movie purposes, just to make things more entertaining. And I'm like, nah, I just think a lot of them are stupid. Honestly, it's to me, it's very believable.
Yeah, I think there's a strong correlation between lower levels of education and racism.
Yeah, for sure.
Like a really strong correlation.
For sure.
That being said, I think the more pernicious ones are people like David Duke, who reminded me a lot of people like Tommy Robinson and Nick Griffin. Because when I looked at David Duke's history, he was actually elected to the House of Representatives for a 3-year stint.
Yeah.
I mean, he did fuck all in that stint, pretty much. But irregardless, he got the votes to get in. And he got done with some sort of fraud as well. It's like, there's clearly someone who can make people believe in him. And even in the film, he doesn't come across as like a super evil person without the general perspective of what he's doing.
I agree.
Especially at the time. Funny enough, David Duke didn't even realise that Ron Stallworth was a black person until like post 2000.
Yeah.
When the book came out and a reporter contacted him. So for like 20 odd years, he thought that Ron Stallworth was really a white person.
Again, a lot of complaints that I saw on Reddit was that it would have made more sense for the white guy to be on the phone to him. So he can so you don't have two people pretending to be one person. You just have consistently one guy pretending to be one person. Problem with that is, well, one, the protagonist needs something to do, but two, I don't know if we mentioned it, this is actually all based on a true story, and that's how it actually happened.
Yeah.
So, and it's also proven the point that, at one point, David Duke said that black people speak like this and white people speak like this. I can't remember exactly what he said, but that was the gist of it. And in his mind, that was it. There was no way that for someone like me could, if I'm black, I have to speak like this, and there's no way I can change that. I'm just born speaking this way, and that was it. So him doing that, Ron being on the phone to David Duke, fooling the whole time, just completely destroys that theory, which is part of the point of why it's in the film.
I saw an interview with the real Ron Stallworth, and he was saying that during those actual phone conversations, because there are a few scenes where his like sergeant or whatever is next to him, and he's just like cracking up. And he said whenever he had a phone conversation with Duke, if they knew it was coming, or if he was called up Duke, he had to have his sergeant next to him basically, and the whole time his sergeant was just pissing himself because obviously he was like firing out all these racial slurs as a black man, sort of similar to the first scene where he talks to the KKK. And then David Duke's like agreeing with him, and the sergeant he was like, my sergeant kept having to leave the room or whatever. He's laughing so much. It was a really good image. Right at the end of the film, there's a scene where it's an imaginary scene, I guess. Well, it's not true to life. Where the black cop tells David Duke that he's black. Basically, it's quite a cathartic moment because there's been a lot of tension in the film up to that point, and it's just like a real feeling of relief for me, at least. And then when the camera cuts to Duke, he's just alone in his office somewhere, looking like completely shocked. And like his friend had turned out to be black this whole time.
Yeah, it's quite something. Who are your favourite characters in the film?
I think I actually, in terms of performance, I like Duke a lot. His portrayal was the scariest one in a way because it was so relatively affable. It wasn't like the way you'd imagine someone like that to be.
It's weird because it's hard for me. It was kind of hard for me to dislike him because I look at Topher Grace, who's the actor, and I just think of Eric Foreman from That 70s Show, which is a show I fucking love. And he's kind of like this somewhat adorable little kid who he's like, he's trying to, he likes the girl next door, but he can't get with her, and his dad's always mean to him or whatever. And, I just see Eric Foreman when I see him, so it's hard for me to root against him. The other guy, sure, no problem, but him, he's got such a baby face.
He looks pretty like David Duke, actually. Especially that moustache. Was he your favourite character?
Who, David Duke? Someone not quite. I probably don't have one, honestly. I didn't feel the protagonist until the end. That might be weird for me to say. I wasn't really captivated by him. What captivated me was everything going around, everything going against him. Obviously, me being a black man, they're going against me. And I was more against the opposition more than rooting for the main guy, if that makes any sense.
Same.
I mean, in that show, who can I really pick? Half them guys want me dead.
Well, it's not necessarily like you're the favourite one to have a drink with. It's just the one you appreciated in the film the most, Like Thanos might be your favourite character in Infinity War. I'm sure you wouldn't want to go out for a pint with him. Maybe you would. I don't know.
Fair enough. What was that guy's name? Carmichael?
Oh, yeah. Kwame.
He weren't my favourite, but I really did like that speech. I was moved by that. He did kind of sort of ruin it at the end when he was like, there's a war coming. We got to get our weapons ready. That kind of... Because I agreed with him word for word up until that point. And I was like, it's probably not going to work out for you that well. You know what I was going to say, actually? I always imagine myself, if I was in this show, if I was in this film, who would I be? And if I was living in that kind of environment, I would fully be like that. If I'd grown up like that, was constantly harassed by police for no reason. Like, just imagine there's that scene when they're stopped by the police, and I'll just imagine if that was my girlfriend and the cops just like, you know, groping her like that, I'd fully be anti-police to the point where, yeah, I may want to take some physical action. I fully understand it. From my perspective, being away from it, I can sit back and think maybe that's not the right way to go about it. But if I was in that environment, I'd fully understand why they do it, and I'd probably be one of them, to be honest.
That's fair. Were there any bits during the film where you were like, there's no way that's real?
A lot of it felt quite real to me. There was some funny moments where it's like, okay, I can see there being a bit over the top there. The one thing that comes to mind, which isn't totally unrealistic, was when he activated the bomb and it was right next to him, which is fucking funny. Which I didn't understand at first.
Yeah, I didn't understand until like the film finished. I was like, oh.
Other than that scene, none of it felt unreal to me. The film felt too real to me, if anything. Maybe there's a scene for you, so maybe you can answer your own question.
Yeah, I mean, I did some research on what was real and what wasn't afterwards. So all the bomb stuff is made up. They did plan on bombing 2 gay clubs, actually.
But even the thing with that is, that sounds plausible.
You know what, though? Like, if you look at terror attacks in the US over the lot since, like, I think it's 2001 or something, most of them have been done by, like, tiki torch white people.
In America?
Yeah, it's pretty whack. I was like, what the fuck? As well. But it's pretty crazy.
When you say terror, do you mean like the shootings and that?
Yeah, like shootings.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. Funny, that's a crazy stat. Like,
it's like 15 to 4 to 1 or something.
Crazy in the sense that I've never heard that stat before. I hear about all of the shootings and whatever, but I've just never seen that stat structured the way you've just said it. Yeah, I don't know. I just find it fascinating because I sometimes see a lot of, like, let's say, right-wing people. I listen to some YouTube videos, I read some shit on Twitter, and I would just like to imagine if I put that to them, what would they say? They tend to pass the buck. They'll say, well, yeah, but look about all of the Arabs and 9/11 and those Negroes shooting each other in Chicago. The media's not talking about those. That's the shit I see. All that shit's true, yeah, but normally the original argument doesn't dispute that. Like, these things aren't mutually exclusive. Both things can happen, but they just refuse to see their part of the story.
I think his partner also wasn't gay during the investigation, although he really did take a photo with David Duke, which is hilarious. Yeah, his girlfriend was entirely made up as well. That was clearly just put in there to balance out all the KKK stuff and give it like a different perspective. There are a few stylistic choices I thought were pretty whack. Like, remember when he's giving that speech and it's just showing all the black people like looking up as like random heads on a black background? I thought that was really weird.
Yeah, kind of.
Also, later on, I realised that it's a trademark shot of Spike Lee's, a dolly shot. You know when the cross is burning at the end and the camera like zooms in with them holding their guns towards it, or him holding his gun towards it?
Yeah.
I thought that when I was watching, I was like, what the fuck is this?
It was quite out of place.
Yeah, it doesn't really go with the tone of the film.
Yeah. There was some powerful imagery though. As you mentioned before, when you had the old civil rights leader talking about his story, how his friend got lynched.
Oh yeah.
While at the same time you had the I don't know, some KKK ritual thing, or maybe they were even watching the film you mentioned, Birth of a Nation. But while that was happening at the same time, the contrast was very interesting.
And obviously, like, with the context, Birth of a Nation led to KKK coming back, which led to all the lynchings like the ones he was describing there. Yeah. So it's like, ugh. Do you think of the montage at the end? I mean, we spoke about it a little bit already.
Because the film kind of sort of has a happy ending. I mean, like, you know, those guys are arrested or they died, or I don't even know what happened to them.
Oh, they
did. So, it kind of ended on a positive note, and then it was like, oh shit. And it's quite explicit as well. Like, you just straight up seeing people getting run over.
Yeah.
Like, and I was the first time I saw that.
Yeah, same.
Most films you leave with kind of like, feeling good, but...
The main person who pushed for this was Jordan Peele, the same guy who did Get Out.
Uh-huh.
He actually got Spike Lee in on that and everything, once he had the story. Because initially, apparently, Spike Lee thought it was like a Dave Chappelle... Have you seen that? Clayton Bigsby. He's like a blind guy who joins the KKK.
Yes. But he doesn't realize he's black.
That's hilarious. Yeah.
You mentioned not favorite characters, but one that I felt was good for the film was Felix. You know he's Finnish, the actor.
Yeah,
I did not know that, and I was like, damn, this guy can do a really good Southern American accent. I mean, maybe if you're from there, you might disagree, but like, I legit thought this dude's from Texas or Louisiana or something like that. Anyway, he felt very real to me, and like, it wasn't just that he was a racist. You saw like other aspects of his life. Like, I imagine he's on a low-income job. He's just not happy about his life in general. This may sound a bit misogynistic, but you know, his wife isn't the prettiest, and I kind of got the vibe that he was only with her just because he couldn't do much better. As in, like, he didn't seem he was kind of using her.
Yeah.
Or she was like, you know, head over heels for him, and he kind of just like, when he was with his buddies, and she didn't get a look in. So that's the impression I got, and I felt he had more depth than most of the other characters.
Like, my favourite scene was when he was with Adam Driver downstairs in the basement, and he was like, I think it was the best line in the film where he's talking about him being Jewish. Like, I want to see a dick, I want to see a dick. It's like, yeah, you want to see my big Jew dick, you fag? She was hilarious.
My favourite line was just when he goes, because he's interrogating him. He's like, are you Jewish, blah, blah, blah. He's like, no, I'm not. And he goes, show me your dick. And then it cuts away. I laughed out loud. And then initially, I didn't get it. Like, it took me a while to get it. But I was like, wait, what? This is a weird turn it's taken here. Kind of thing. But obviously, he's trying to check if he's circumcised.
I thought that was a bit weird, though, because a lot of Americans are circumcised.
Yeah, I mean, well, I guess Felix wasn't. I don't know how it works.
Yeah, I liked the bit where he was like, oh, the moon landing never happened. And then he's like, nah, man. Don't be stupid. And then he like takes it to the next level. He's like, the whole moon is fake, fam. It's like, what?
Yeah, they're not the smartest guys.
That's a joke.
Going back to the real Ron, is it Stallworth?
Yeah.
When he revealed this story, and people are asking him, you know, how did these KKK members not realize you were a different guy on the phone to the white person that you sent to go meet him? And he just said, you know what? These guys were really dumb. He just said, these guys were just all really fucking stupid. And I was like, you know what? Fair enough. What can you say to that?
Have you seen Four Lions?
I've not. I know what it is, but I've not seen it.
Because it kind of reminded me of that. So Four Lions is a film about 4 suicide bombers who are like jihadis. It's a comedy film. It got banned in cinemas. And the writer of the film said he was reading a paper one day and he read this story about these guys who wanted to blow up a boat, like a destroyer or something. And they were like jihadis in the US. And they got all these bombs, or they made all these bombs, and they put them all on this dinghy to float it out to the ship. And then the dinghy just sunk because it was too heavy. And he was like, what did they say afterwards? So it's like, are these people all kind of just like really thick? Because I mean, I guess kind of when you're isolated and you feel like left out and stuff, and that something gives you a purpose like that, you must feel like really, I don't know, inspired in a way.
Yeah. It's scary how everyone has guns in America. Like, it's just like, you got your piece. They're having a meeting in the basement. It's like everyone's got their piece, and it's like, yeah. I don't want people with that kind of mindset just walking around with deadly weapons like that. Like, I mean,
well, you know, Nicole, you live in the.
I mean, yeah,
Europe, the most guns. Oh,
that is
mistake.
That is true. But they're of a different mindset, so you know.
Yeah, they just use them to hide Nazi gold. That's all.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Hops Fils.
There was a story recently, quite a sad one. There was shooting, shots fired, cops came in, saw a guy with a gun, shot him. He died. Turned out the guy with the gun was just trying to respond and like be that good guy with the gun they always talk about. But unfortunately, he just ended up being another victim. It's just like, wow. I mean, as a British person, it's kind of like, what did you expect to happen? But that's sad, man.
I mean, it's a different culture. It's one I don't understand. It's one I probably never will understand. I remember going on holiday to Mexico, meeting these 2 sisters from Texas, and one was very hot. She's quite into me, and I was just asking them about the gun situation, and they were like, "Yeah, my dad has like 50 different guns in their house," and I was like, "What? Bit much, maybe," but they were like, "No, we need to be ready." I'm like, ready for what? He was like, when the government comes, we need to be ready. And apparently Texas is very different to the rest of the United States from what I've heard. It thinks of itself as an independent state. And yeah, they just said, we need to be ready for when the time comes. And they got 50 guns in the house, so yeah, they're fucking ready. So it is what it is, man. It's just a different way of thinking. The way I've grown up, we just don't think like that. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, it's weird, man.
Unless it's the police, if I see a dude with a gun, I run a mile. I'm just not used to that.
I mean, clearly you haven't been fox hunting.
No, I don't do what you white people do, you know.
Is that illegal now? I think it's illegal now.
I've heard stories, yeah, but yeah, I don't really know.
Pretty horrific anyway. One of the weirdest things about that is how the more extreme right-wing groups have taken a rise recently.
You think it's got anything to do with Trump?
Well, even before that, like when there's depression and when there's economic decline, people tend to go onto more extreme sides of things.
Yes.
And especially with all the fears, especially in Europe, also in the US, about Islamic people and migrants from places like Syria, it's fueled a lot of anti-immigrant xenophobia.
Yep.
So there's a lot more public support for ideas like that than there were even 10 years ago.
Yep.
Which is weird to think about.
I mean, it is like you said, when there's poverty and oppression, people are looking for solution. And they see this, they put two and two together, and that's the solution they want to believe in. If that's what makes them feel better about themselves, that's what they're going to do. Ultimately, it's like hope. If you get rid of this problem, maybe our lives will be better, and it is what it is. What did you think of Flip? So Flip is like he's kind of like his right-hand man in this film. This film's about a black guy infiltrating the KKK, which starts over the phone, but because he's black, he can't physically go and meet them, which is what they want him to do. So he gets this other white Jewish cop, whose nickname is Flip, and that's basically Flip's role in the film. What did you think of Flip?
I thought he was the most entertaining actor in the film, to be honest. Like, I thought he just really... As in, like, when he was, like, in those moments that were really intense, especially when Felix was just, like, trying to pressure him and see if he'd crack, he always came up with, like, ballsy things to say back. And I felt like there were no other actors who were as watchable as he was. I've seen him be less watchable than other things, but it was I really enjoyed the performance. It was interesting to see him, because he has a different perspective from Stallworth, who's the black cop. Flip is just said he doesn't really have a stake in it, even said it overtly, like, I don't really care about this. Like, my dad was Jewish and, like, he fucked off. I don't give a shit. I grew up thinking I was just Christian like everyone else. I'm just Jewish by parentage, basically. But being surrounded by people saying, like, what is it, Yid or Kaik, whatever the racist word is, he just became more and more, like, thought about it more and more and what it meant about him and who he was in relation to that. I would have liked a little more, like, time on that, because I felt like he was kind of just, didn't really have an arc per se, he was just sort of fulfilling that role.
Yeah, I understood that, actually. That spoke to me as well, because for me, growing up, race wasn't a big deal to me. So where me and Anton are from, it's a very multicultural area in the UK. Grew up around black people, white people, Indians, Chinese, Jews, Arabs, anything under the sun, basically. I'm mixed race myself. To me, this was just normal. And I kind of understood where Flip was coming from, where he was like, oh, I'm Jewish, but, you know, it is what it is. It doesn't define me, and I've never been in a place where it has defined me by default. So I just don't have this mindset of to be protective of my race or anything like that. While there are people who appreciate films such as this because it raises important issues, there are people a bit like me where, because my reality is very different to that, it's kind of a negative. Because me watching this film, I don't think I've heard so much racial abuse for, like, how long is it, 90 minutes or whatever? That wasn't a nice feeling. So it wasn't something I appreciated, which is why, going back to you asking me if I enjoyed the film, that was a big negative for me, to kind of putting myself through that. It was a weird thing. It was a weird feeling. I wouldn't say objectively it's a bad film, but I didn't like putting myself through that.
That's a really interesting take. I didn't really find the stuff that explicit, but I guess it would affect you more than me.
Do you know what? I hear you, because if it wasn't about black people, I'd probably feel the same way as you, which isn't really the right way to think about it. But because it was about my people, because if I was in that film, they would be saying that shit to me. That's why I felt the way I felt. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. How do you think it compared to Get Out? That's the other film that we talked about in this podcast that's had strong racial themes.
I mean, one big difference is one is set in the 70s and one is set like today-ish. Blackkklansman is a lot more blatant. Like, if you were to ask the name of the family in Get Out, if they were racist, they will tell you they're not. But the KKK, they're racist and proud. You see? Big difference there.
You know in Who is America? You know the people when they talk about building a mosque in that place? And he's like, we're racist and we're proud of it.
Yeah.
Literally those people.
Yeah, we also done Who is America, so you can listen to that. It's in the archive, SoundCloud, Spotify, all that jazz. So is Get Out. Going back, one of the differences, you have the two different time periods. You have blatant racism versus, discreet racism. There's probably a better term for it. Though, maybe there's something you feel.
I feel like Get Out is a lot more middle class.
Well, yes.
It is clearly quite a working class thing. Like, all people have working class jobs.
Yep.
You don't see them do them, but I would imagine it certainly comes across like that. And whereas Get Out is kind of, they go to this massive fuck off sized house in the country. Everyone's very pretty and very, put together, that kind of thing. And their friends come to the house in black limos and stuff. It's all very, organised. Whereas KKK is, like you said, they're kind of morons.
It's like a different kind of racism. It's more like, for the working class, for the KKK, their thing is more, we're already working class. We're just getting by. And now you're going to give all these rights and all these jobs to these black folk? It's kind of like they feel that the black people are taking their piece of the pie. If you start giving them all the jobs and whatever, what do we have? I felt that was more their angle. Whereas in Get Out, with the wealthy folk, their kind of racism is more, we own these people. We can do what we want with him. We can pick him off the street and get him to be my worker or my boyfriend or whatever it was. And these are two different kind of racisms which you get in the real world as well. It's a bit like the cop who we haven't spoken about. I forgot his name, but the kind of dodgy cop who was a bit of a dick, let's say. There are those who are in power who will abuse it, and he was certainly one of those. He shot a black kid because he thought he had a gun, but the kid was innocent. And like I said before, he was the one groping one of the girls just because he could, basically. He was actually one of the more dislikable characters in that film.
Yeah, I disliked him more than Felix, actually.
Same.
Because he actually has power to, whereas Felix is just like a powerless guy. And you can see how he's like bottom of the rung, just being lashing out kind of thing. Not to forgive him, but it's more forgivable than having some power and just abusing it because you can.
Do you not annoy me as well? He was this cop guy. He was doing what he was doing. Everyone knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
And no one done anything about it. When Ron addressed it to Flip comes back with, we protect our own.
Yeah.
Which I just think is a fucking stupid cop-out answer. That's not even an answer. And they arrested him at the end. They exposed him. He said something dodgy and they recorded it, so they had proof. But that wasn't the reason why, at least they didn't say, that wasn't the reason why they didn't stop him. They didn't say, we can't stop him because we had no proof. They could have got proof a long time ago. They fully knew what he was doing, and I had the impression he'd been doing it for years before. But yeah, I didn't like that.
Yeah, it's some insane shit, man. But that's not like a film-only example. That's like an example in film of a real thing that happens all the time.
But yeah, for sure. If my beef was just how the film tried to, I don't know, put a positive spin on that.
100%.
It's like, he got arrested in the end, but no.
Nah. If you just cut that scene out of the film, I think it's a better film. Because it's not justified either. It's not like the other people, you see them change their mind about it through the journey of the film. It's just like, oh yeah, before I was all behind you with your racism and your abuse of power, but now that's not cool anymore.
Yeah.
It's okay, doesn't really make sense. You know why they actually closed down the investigation in real life?
Do tell, because I don't know.
It's a fucking stupid reason. They're worried that it would come out that the police was associated with the KKK.
Because one of them had joined the KKK.
Yep.
Okay. I don't really know what to say to that, to be honest.
He's black, right? I don't think anyone's going to be like, oh.
I don't know. Maybe they probably meant the other guy, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, you do make a good point. Do you think there are any black people who want to join the KKK?
Do you remember there was an Indian Nazi? We studied him in history class.
No, I remember an Indian guy joining the BNP,
Oh,
which is
yeah.
a very right-wing party in the UK. I don't know if they're still around. No, but to be fair though, and I've heard from people we know that people assume, like in America, people assume that everyone that's ethnic is a Democrat. And there's kind of the same assumption that any ethnic person in the UK is on the left side. This isn't the case.
Really?
And there are a lot of people, either immigrants or descendant of immigrants, who I know who voted to leave the European Union. This does happen. So, okay, maybe a black guy joining the KKK is a step further, don't get me wrong. But, crazy shit happens in this world. This is a big world out there. I'm sure someone's tried to just fuck with him for the bands, which is kind of how this film started. Maybe not for the bands, but I'm sure there's been
for the bands, bro.
I'm sure they got troll applications. Imagine how many troll applications they get. They must do.
Yeah.
They must get.
They're not fucking good at screening them, are they?
Yeah, exactly.
To be fair, if I was the KKK or the guy accepting applications, at least I don't really want to put myself as a KKK, and I received an application from like Mr. Maximus Erectus, I'd just be like, yeah, £15 membership fee, please. I don't give a shit.
Do you pay to get in?
Should we find out? Hold on. Join the KKK. Let's see. Here you go. How to join.
You're on the membership site,
yeah? My internet history.
We all know what Ayrton's doing after.
Oh shit, I'm still recording. Shit.
I've told you about this guy from the very beginning.
This thing's got an advert for Blackkklansman on it. I don't think it's a real KKK website.
Boo.
I don't know. Click up to clan.bz. Fun facts. Ooh. What's some fun facts about the KKK?
Do you think there's been a spike, an upward spike in applicants because of this film?
No. I don't think.
Do you know it's funny? No, based on that was kind of a joke. But looking on Reddit, there were a lot of people, seemingly like white, right-wing, possibly racist people, complaining about this film. They've seen it, and they were unhappy with the projection of the KKK.
Yeah.
And then the counterpoint to that was, like, this is a film about a black guy infiltrating the KKK, made by Spike Lee. What kind of angle did you think the film was going for here? Knowing this, why would you put yourself through it and watch it knowing what... I mean, you can't be surprised. I mean, if you are surprised, you're as stupid as the film portrayed you to be.
Funnily enough, when David Duke was told about it, he said he was a big fan of Spike Lee.
Okay.
And Spike Lee was like, that's a compliment I could do without.
The only thing I read was that he was worried about how he will be portrayed in the film.
Okay, I've got the application form.
Here we
Should I
go.
apply?
Let's do it. Let's do it live.
All applications must include a £10 application fee for processing.
Pounds? This is in the UK.
Right, it's $1.
Okay.
It's $1.
You scared me for a second.
You should see their website though. Wait, let me show you the website. Hold on, I'll send you a link, and we'll just in the YouTube thing we'll send a link to it as well, because this shit is hilarious.
Do you know what we should do? Fuck it. Forget Blackkklansman. We should just name this episode NNA podcast. Join in the KKK. And we'll just record ourselves doing it. We'll read out all of
the... You join it. I'll talk to someone on the phone.
I'll join it.
You join it. I'll go to the cross burnings.
KKK applications. I'll read out the terms and conditions. All the nitty gritty stuff.
Have you seen the website?
I'm about to go on it now.
Dude, it's like... So, in case you can't see it right now, imagine the most 90s thing you can imagine was made by a 5-year-old, and then chuck a few Confederate flags on it, and you got it, basically. The first thing you see is massive block yellow writing against a purple splodgy space background that looks like it's about 2x5 pixels. It's covered in horrible text as well. It's some music you can play. Ooh.
Is it elevator music?
Here you go.
That sounds nice.
I'm glad we have that. Have you seen the website yet, Nicole?
No. But I'm on Google. It's actually quite hard to find. This is
hard
link.
work.
Okay.
I sent a link. It's like the 7th one or something. Which is ironic. They've actually got an anti-KKK website as a first result.
Okay.
With an advert for Blackkklansman on it as well.
I've seen on
there's a link in the chat.
The Google research results that one of them is a KKK leader claims hate group has grown at record pace since Trump has been elected.
Yeah, I mean, it's part of it. It's like in the as soon as Leave won, there was an increase in racist attacks in the UK. Almost feeling like vindicated, like it's not just you who feels that way, you know. Did you get the link in the chat? Have you clicked on that?
Hold on.
CKUKLOS.
This is a shit website, and wow!
I told you.
Look at these images. I work in IT. I used to make websites. This is piss fucking poor. I could have done this in school. This is piss fucking poor. There's an email. A Barney Ross 2000 at gmail.com, so you know when this was made.
Professional email address there from a 18-year-old boy. Excellent.
Oh, I just assumed this was when he made this email address, because this looks like it was made in the year 2000.
Yeah, if you click on application form on the garbage thing, you can see it. I'll read it out for us. Either undersigned, a true loyal citizen of blank, being a white Gentile person of temperate habits, sound in mind, a believer in the tenets of the Christian religion, the maintenance of principles of the white supremacy/separatism, do most respectfully apply for membership in the Church of the Ku Klux Knights of the Ku Klux Klan. That's a lot of K's, man. I certify and guarantee on my honour I will honour and comply with all the rules and requirements that are asked of me as a member. If I am selected for membership in said organisation, I will obey all the rules and regulations of the Constitution. By laws and edicts, I will not violate any state, country, city or federal laws at any time. What the fuck is that? You will not violate laws at any time. A lot of what they do is illegal. It doesn't make any sense. I further state I am not now, nor have I ever been, a member of the Communist Party or news media. I further certify I am not a member of any other Klan organisation. If you ever resign from this, I will return all my paraphernalia, literature, books and documents to one of the offenders, officers of said organisation. Ironic, a colour photocopy.
So apparently, it's either the guy who was after David Duke or maybe the next one after that. His name was, I can't remember his first name, but his last name is important. Let's just say his name was Barry Black. So the leader of the KKK is Mr. Black. You can't make this shit up. You cannot make this shit up. That is fucking fantastic.
You think he'd change his name?
You think he would? You think he would? I've also wondered if they would allow, if they had like a black cat or a black dog, would they be okay with that? Is this a problem?
Yeah, I presume they'd be alright with that. I mean, because if you go under the fur, it's white.
I want consistency, okay? I want consistency in your hatred. I want all black objects to be removed from the household. That's what I want.
Maybe if it was like a lion, as it would be African, they'd be less approving.
But they probably wouldn't even know.
I mean, lions come from Africa.
Yeah, but you think they know that?
I mean, they're white, so therefore they're obviously more intelligent than black people by their own words, so should know that.
Yeah, of course, I forgot. I've seen the film, I definitely know that now. I didn't know before, but Eric Foreman told me, so now I know.
Better than them Mexicans going and like banging underage girls at their quinceañera, disgraceful behaviour.
Who is America, episode 13? There's context in that sentence.
He said desperately. Yeah. Ooh, Klansman swap shop. Hey-oh. Swap clan items for the Klansmen. Beautiful.
Yep, so Ethan's going to be on that later.
Get some new pillowcases. Lovely.
So, thank you for listening, guys. This was episode Blackkklansman. Hashtag Airton people. You can listen to all our other stuff, including Get Out and Who is America, on SoundCloud, Spotify, iTunes also. We have exclusive content on YouTube, including small snippets of episodes such as this one here. Next episode, we are doing Spider-Man PS4.
Ooh, Spidey.
Well,
No, why I did that?
In all seriousness, thanks for listening, guys, and we'll see you next time. This has been the NNA Podcast until we change our name, which we will listen to recommendations or any suggestions.
We've got some of our own, but we're still going for it.
Do you have any new names, by the way? Well, we might as well discuss that.
Oh, wait, yeah.